Hey guys, welcome to Bros Banter, second season. Today we have a company you guys don't know about. Company that's in pharmaceutical, company that's in drugs, legal drugs, biotech. We're here with Shaman Pharma, which is a company that you guys, I hope, will take a look at because once you hear these guys out, you'll know they have a serious company. Alex, Nick, who are you guys?
Well, we're entrepreneurs in the pharmaceutical space. We started out by acquiring a lab from a pharmaceutical company in 2018. We started operating the lab in 2019. And
just before COVID.
Just before COVID, yeah. And basically, we're fully licensed by Health Canada. We have a license, what's called a narcotics dealer's license. And we've applied with Health Canada to add psychedelic substances to that license. So we already had different drugs on it, like opioids and things like that we're testing for other pharmaceutical companies. And they basically granted us everything that we were applying for. So we just kept going, and we got authorized for ketamine, MDMA, psilocybin, which is what's in magic mushrooms, and other drugs. And then, people, I don't know if they're aware that there was a sort of a boom in the psychedelic drug sector to find new therapies for mental health and other types of indications. But there's many issues with that because they're restricted substances. So not anybody can just start a company and start doing that, right? It's not like making an app or you just need some programmers because you actually need the licenses, the laboratory, the scientists, the instrumentation. It's very expensive. And even applying for the licenses, if you're not already starting from an already existing license, you're going to have to wait maybe like 2 years, 3 years to get the license if you get the license. Because
you need your DEL, your drug establishment license, even before being able to apply for your narcotics dealer license.
Yeah, you basically have to build your facility, hire your team, get everybody security checked and all that, and then wait 2 years to get the license to start operating. So it's quite challenging and expensive to do.
Which is why a lot of companies base themselves on just partnerships with companies like us, with universities, and they went public with no facility, nothing. They said, we have a dealer's license, we can handle psychedelics, psilocybin, MDMA, whatever. But the only thing they had was a partnership for 2 years. And all these companies now, they're going down because either universities, they don't renew the partnership. So the company now has nothing. They cannot even handle the substances that they're working with. So, yeah.
The interesting thing is actually the concept of your company, how it came about is, like you said, you purchased a lab in 2018. So having that lab, you have tangible assets. You're that already had an existing clientele.
We had a book of business and the relationships in big pharma. What I like to call the old big pharma. I like to think of this as the new generation of big pharma.
Which is great for a company like you guys are saying, like, you're not going at a dead start. There is a revenue generation
which is rare in the biotech sector to have revenues, right? So all those companies, they go there, they go public, and they go through crazy fundings, but they have zero revenue. They're just blowing money.
Well, they're investing in research and development, but it does look like a company is blowing money because it's very, very expensive. And 9 times out of 10, they don't really generally succeed in finding a new drug for the condition that they're targeting.
So you mentioned, Nick, that you guys actually have a book of clients that probably got, like you said, that didn't have a license or couldn't work with a lab for a length of time. What's the process with that? So if I'm a company, and why would I take your services, and what were your services like if let's say I'm dealing psilocybin?
Yeah, well, you're going to save about 2 or 3 years waiting for your approvals.
It could be more than that, actually.
Well, it could be never, right?
Because Health Canada don't give those licenses easily.
Yeah, because
2 or 3 years
licenses,
if they give it easily, right? That's the normal process, the standard process that they were going through years ago. Now there's so many requests for those licenses. They didn't stop I don't want to say they stop giving those licenses, but you have to go through a thorough process. And like Alex said, you have to build your lab, you have to hire your employees, you have to run it for 2-3 years minimum before you get even a response from Health Canada saying.
So you have an overhead of like $5 to $10 million and 2 to 3 years before you can start operating. And one of the big issues with that is, there's a window of opportunity, and who knows, the opportunity is still going to be there in 2 or 3 years
For a startup.
For a startup, right?
So as a startup, if you want to get into this sector, at least you want to start messing around with these products, well, you have to get the licenses, which is a costly process. You have to build out and you're not even profitable for those 2 years. You're just losing money. It's a burn rate.
100% burn rate, right? So basically what's happening in the industry is that there's quite a few companies that set out, being passionate about this subject. Oh yeah, we're going to take psychedelics and we're going to look at their therapeutic effects and all that, which is great, but you can't just go out and do that. Mm-hmm. So we looked at that and we're starting to get traction with our companies. Well, can we work with your lab to do this because you have the licenses and all that? And we looked at it. So, well, actually, let's make that our business model, what I basically call a venture studio, where we're partnering with these companies, and we can start by just invoicing them for the work that we do at first to see it's going the right direction. This is a good partnership. But really what we're aiming to do is to then either create a joint venture with these companies or to make an agreement where we sacrifice a part of our profit margin in exchange for,
royalties,
like a royalty stream, or directly equity in the company, right? Yeah. What I call the J-Very model, JV, equity, royalties, and invoicing.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is that I have I see what you guys do, and I'm going like, okay, you're the serious face of a lot of these brands that are coming out, because that's one thing that I see in this market is I see a lot of branding. And branding's cute. It's cute. But you're the guys that test, the pudding. They're okay. This is what you're getting. This is what it's producing. This is what it delivers. These are the specs.
And the pudding works though. They become a partner as well.
Exactly. But that's the most important thing is you can have all the branding power in the world, but if your product does not deliver, game over. It's done.
Game over. Yeah.
It's done. It's like, no, I'm sorry.
It's a lot of money up in the air, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can reduce the risk and reduce the spending, and we're willing to participate basically in the risk, and for us it's great because we call it risk, but it's effectively reduced because we start so far ahead, right? So it's like risk/opportunity for us.
You get to decide. You get to decide.
We get to decide, and sometimes companies we get we have the expertise that some investors don't necessarily have. Like when people bring us a project, well, we can have a really scientific look at it. We can take it to our PhDs. They can tell us, it's like, this is great, or are you kidding me? This is never going to work, right? So we have the in-house expertise to actually evaluate things, and if we're not too sure, well, look, we'll take them as a client and we'll invoice them, right? If it makes some progress, we'll be like, well, look, here's our standard paperwork for creating a joint venture, and let's do this together.
Because we're not a consulting company, but it happens so many times that we just did consulting work because company come to us and we have more expertise than them in what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So we guide them through what they want to do and then it's just we're doing consulting, advising.
And it sounds to me like you guys have a different approach to big pharma, because big pharma actually would wait for companies to spend a lot of money on one product, lose a lot of money, like you mentioned in French, on potentially a product that might never see the market. While you guys are like in the best possible.
You're in the sweet spot.
Yeah, you're in the sweet spot because not only do you'll take them as a client because the money's good, but at the same time, if you like the project, you can actually get involved and keep a stake in it. Like that's how
and it creates a portfolio in our holding, and it's sort of organically risk adjusted.
Of course.
I think the success rate will be higher in our portfolio than like a normal portfolio if you just invest a little bit in everything that comes out.
You know what would be a
right?
wild idea? If you ever made that portfolio an actual portfolio. No, but I mean, like, if you actually launched an ETF that's on the companies that you're betting on.
Hey, let's not give them ideas here because they might start a fund.
But did I leave my laptop turned on somewhere? Have you been snooping, reading my emails?
No, but that's because you're the box. You own the box. You're there, and you can say, okay, well, yeah, okay. This is what you want to do. This is what actually it does. There's a disconnect, or this is okay, or like let's say MDMA market for treatment. Since you're well connected and with Health Canada, this and that, you already have a potential roadmap of how long it will be before it's applicable to people for prescriptions. You already have a little bit of inside knowledge, and you're going like, okay, maybe I'm not going to go in. I'm going to wait 2 years.
Well, we know it's going to be long, but we don't know how long it's going to be still. And we're positioned to exactly talking about the risk. Now, we're invoicing the companies that are taking all the risks because we can do the formulation, we do the testing, stability testing, we have all the equipment to test those substances, to formulate them, to do the R&D, and to sell it to the companies that are paying for the clinical trials. So we invoice all those companies that are risking all their money.
Don't you like those words? We're not. We're literally not taking the risk.
Well, if fee-based,
I love those words. If I was an investor and if this was a company that I could invest in, I would be like going, those are the words that you sell me. It's like, because you're aware.
We are taking the risk, but we have 8 legs to stand on, right? So we can actually afford to take the risk, but it was going to be a very educated decision because we're going to look at it. Maybe it's something we've tried before with another company, but something we can put in front of our scientists and we can be very honest with the people that approach us and tell them, like, look, we're going down this road. Our goal is to actually participate in the upside of this, not just to do invoicing. We really want to see therapies get to market. And, at the end of the day, we want to do things that help improve the world, right? If it doesn't do that, there's no market for it because we're talking about healthcare, right? And so we can evaluate, is this going to help improve something or is there zero chance that this improves something? And that's where the risk is in trying to figure that out ahead of time.
If there's no potential, we won't participate into it, right?
Well, and this is interesting. So you say that you're minimizing your risk. Now, Big Pharma, Big Pharma finds a company that's getting all the way to a certain stage. Let's say I'm a new company. I want to get into this sector, but I want to go the traditional approach. How much money may I have to put up until I get to a phase 1, phase 2? And then Big Pharma actually may come in and take me seriously. How much money will my company have spent to get to that point? Millions, correct?
Hundreds of millions, right?
Hundreds, yeah.
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah, there's a study that came out that basically they compounded the total amount of money that sort of gets spent and expanded across, I think, the failures and successes and what ends up being the average spend for the ones that are successful, if you also account for the ones that weren't. And it was somewhere around $3 billion.
Ouch. So, and you guys, essentially by being the box, seeing the companies, helping them, if you like the project, you then participate.
It's also if we like the people, the management.
It's all about chemistry as well.
Yeah.
Chemistry.
but that's
not valid. Sorry.
It's a good one. But that being said,
He's been preparing this one in front of the mirror.
He was working on it.
Now was the time to put it out.
But that being said, I mean, you really are mitigating your risk because the risk that small company working in a silo would have and the money that they have to put in touch, you guys are never seeing that at all. Because you're in the position where they have to go through.
Well, we see it because we still give away some of our profit margin to have potential to be partner into this company if we like it, right? We're minimizing the risk.
Yeah,
I was saying we take no risk.
You minimize it. That's the best way.
Yeah, you minimize it, but also
a lot. You minimize it a lot.
The thing is like,
yeah, of course.
You guys have the brains. Like when it shows to a company has a project and go, hey Alex, hey Nick, this is what I want to do with this, and you're like, okay, we'll take a look at it. You got the brains, that are all PhDs. They all know what they're talking about. They're not talking about likes, dislike, like pretty much other companies. A lot of the other companies, there's always a gut factor. Well, I think this project is going to work. No.
Yeah, so what we do...
You're talking hard science.
Yeah, we put
nope.
We put like 5 or 6 PhDs in a room, and we close it for like a day or two, and then whoever comes out alive is...
I think Ubisoft tried that. That didn't turn out well with their programmers.
Is that how they made the Assassin's Creed movie?
Yeah, absolutely. That is many programmers died that day.
That is a great game, though.
Many programmers died that day.
So essentially, you guys the concept is amazing because, the company, you're minimizing your risk. You have the licensing, you have the knowledge, you can build that portfolio of products that could be worth hundreds of millions. You're in a good position with
that. If that portfolio was a freely tradable ETF, that'd be amazing.
Okay, stop with the ideas.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, just to touch back on that since he's bringing it up, right? What's interesting is typically in biotech, like we're saying, the goal is to get acquired by big pharma. Yeah. So they're not companies that are set up, will build a sales department and a marketing department and all that. It's going to be strictly money spent in research and development and to move through the different stages of clinical trials, right? Until either they run out of money or they decide to stop it because it's not successful and we won't burn all the money that we have, which is pretty rare actually. Even if they know a lot of the cases, people are like, well, they'll go all the way, right? And then eventually the success rate is high enough that they'll get acquired by a larger pharmaceutical company. Sometimes before that, there's going to be multiple of these companies that are researching in the same domain. They're actually going to amalgamate together, and big pharma will wait until that happens and acquire the whole thing, right? Or they'll buy like the 2 top ones at the same time. So you see some of these things happening. But if that happens in the psychedelic sector, there's not going to be a psychedelic sector. There's just going to be a whole bunch of companies which are either going to fail or get acquired by big pharma. Right? Yeah. So the idea of actually having an ETF and companies out there that are actually not focused on just being acquired by like the old style companies is basically the only way that you're going to actually have a psychedelic industry happening. And it's kind of sad to say, but right now that's not really happening. And that's why I think if you look at the market caps of some of our competitors, right, like the top ones.
Yeah, who are your competitors?
Well, you're talking, Atai, Compass Pathways, MindMed.
All big guys, huh?
Yeah, if you're looking at these companies, Atai had at some point a $3.5 billion market cap. Damn. Compass about $2 billion. MindMed $1.5 billion, something like that.
How much money have they spent to just get to that point?
Hundreds of millions, right? And they're all below $1 billion market cap now, and unless they get very, very close with some of their clinical trials, they're not going to go beyond that. And even then, their value is capped. Like the threshold for their value is what people think that big pharma is going to buy them out for.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to buy them out for $3 billion.
Because nobody thinks anymore that these companies are in it for the long run. Like everybody knows now, the business plan for these companies is to get taken out. So nobody's going to pay a share price above what they think that, let's say, Pfizer or something like that is going to pay for the share at the end of the day. So it's a little bit, to take an example of another industry, the automobile industry. If the business plan for Tesla was to get acquired by Ford or GM, something like that, their market cap never would have been above what people think Ford or GM is going to take them out for, like $2 or $3 billion or something like that, right? The market cap really went up when it became clear that we're not selling.
Be acquired.
No.
Right? That's because then people say, well, there's no longer that threshold here.
There's, that psychological
Right.
threshold, that undeniable aspect is with going like, no.
And also it became a meme stock, but that's a different story.
Also that the guy that owns it is a meme stock
Who's
himself.
that guy? I've never heard of him.
Watch out. That guy might just start looking at your sector soon.
He's welcome to call us.
Elon tabarnak.
He loves Vancouver. That's what I hear. So, and you guys do business companies from Vancouver, right?
We work with some of the companies out there and sort of a supply chain and working through our licenses to supply them.
Because that's actually something else that you guys do, which is something that, supply chain for cannabis, which is an education in itself. Because I am not a pot smoker, not my thing. You do it. Whoever does it.
Cannot anymore. Too strong.
Not my thing.
Too strong, yeah?
It's too strong for me now. Cannabis that's on the market. Cannot smoke it anymore.
You mean the cannabis they sell, the SQDC, for real?
Yeah.
It's too strong?
Man, I smoked that and stopped talking for hours.
Really?
I cannot. I don't even
Really?
enjoy
So-
it.
Which is great, actually.
So, I was about to say his
He wants to
girlfriend
make
must
me
love
smoke.
it. His girlfriend must love it. This pasta tastes funny. Yeah.
No, so to explain how it works, because at first people was like, well, how does that fit in with everything, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it from a drug development point of view, it doesn't really work, right? But that's not really what we're doing. We're building a platform where we have the licenses, the scientists, and the actual drugs, the actual substances, right? Because you can have all that if you don't have the substances. What are you going to do?
That's it.
So because we're basically the first ones there, there's no supply chain in place, and so we need to build a supply chain model. And we had already started doing that with cannabis, where we're exporting cannabis from Colombia to Europe by the hundreds of kilos, like not actual flower, but like
isolate.
purified
CBD
like
isolate.
pure CBD
99.5%. 99.5%.
Okay, so the
CBD isolate. It's powder.
Okay.
Like your protein you have here, it's isolate, right?
Okay.
for manufacturers. We're not selling the stuff to
It's B2B. B2B.
Yeah,
Okay, so
like-
it's B2B. So it never ends up on a, coffee shop in Holland. No.
Well, there's actually companies that are selling isolate to customers, but it's not. I don't know what you're doing with that. To be honest, you have white powder of CBD.
You know what you're doing?
And it's not even.
You're selling it as cocaine. That's what you're doing. That is exactly what you're doing.
Might be a big profit margin right there.
well, funny story. The first time we exported back 100 kilos of CBD powder, which is basically
Again,
just
it's
white powder from
white
Colombia and into Germany.
No.
It took about 2 weeks
Right.
but the first time we actually went through
Oh,
Germany.
you went through Germany. That's true.
Actually, it took about 2 weeks to have it released from customs, and they did the COAs and all that. So we didn't even have to do our own testing because we had testing from the German government. Like, I can just imagine the customs agents. They get these boxes. It says it's from Colombia, and they open it and it's all like bags of.
You're like, those guys are really bad drug dealers. They don't try to hide it somewhere. It's just in plain sight like that.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, they probably thought they were gonna have a really nice Christmas
bust.
party,
Like-
whatever they do. But
Or just a
sorry,
big
sorry
bust.
to disappoint.
But
yeah.
but the whole thing is you guys okay, so that aspect of the business is also something that most people don't even understand, that it's a commodity. At a certain point, drugs, a big category, can be seen as a commodity. It has to flow. It has to move from one place to another, and it follows different rules and regulation, but systematically, it is a commodity. And you have to have a broker or somebody that understands how to make it move. So there's one aspect of Shaman, because Shaman is a holding. Well, you got one aspect of your business, which is brilliant. It's all about being specialists in shuffling, exporting, which is I love that aspect of it. I think it's brilliant.
That's another one too.
Well, everything becomes commodified,
Yeah.
right? And like right now for APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, for most of the drugs in circulation, like pharmaceutical drugs, prescription drugs, they're made in India or China. And so when there was the supply chain problems during the pandemic, it became a big problem for the drug manufacturers to actually be able to procure their APIs. And that led us to realize how important the supply chain element is.
It led us to
how we have to
understand that, but it led us to make other people understand it, that how important are those companies managing the supply chain to make sure that you get your product.
We can't be dependent on them, right? And especially we're not going to get MDMA from India or China right now, so we have to take care of our own supply chain. Well, now we do have a supply chain of GMP grade MDMA.
Only one in Canada and possibly in the world.
Probably in the world, yeah.
GMP, important to say to people because there's slang that you guys use in the industry and people are going like GMP, they don't know what GMP is.
Yeah, good manufacturing practices, which is basically the certification that you get, the highest certification that you can get when they audit you, when they look at literally
everything.
Talk about this source, though. I'm curious. You said this source is probably the only one in Canada?
Yep. Obviously, GMP, MDMA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a secret. You can find the press release with Pharmala, a great company. It's already public. It's got a
So Pharmala is actually one of your clients?
Yeah.
Now they're export partners. So once their MDMA is manufactured, they send it to our lab in our vault, and we stock it there, and we are the ones that will manage the export for them.
And dude, different clients. You should see their vault. I mean, it's like
it's like, what does it look?
It's a level 7 vault.
And what does that mean for a common investor that
there's up to 9 levels,
what he gets at a hotel?
8 or 9.
No, it's like 11. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not Fort Knox. There's no like wires and everywhere to stop people. No, it's just a big ass vault.
It's a big ass vault.
We have a monkey with a machine gun sitting on top of it.
Could John McClane get into this vault?
There's no air
not
ducts.
Sure.
No air ducts. There's no air ducts.
No, but basically it's a vault level 7, almost as big as this studio here. Three access codes. We have the digital thing. We have the rolling
seismic sensors.
Oh yeah, exactly.
All that stuff. Right?
And only 2 people from our lab can access the vault, which is not us. It's our QA and lab manager, if I'm correct.
And they're vetted
by the RCMP. Went through a whole process just to be able to be the ones with the code to get in there.
Certify that they are the most unlikely people to ever go in there and take it for recreational purposes.
They are.
It's like
and basically, I don't have access myself. Like the vault is Alex proof. So,
but it's interesting. So the procedures are so severe. It's a tough market to get into and to get these licenses. But you guys have them, and not only like. Because from what I'm gathering is you're not a legalization play. You have clients. And at the same time...
rain or shine. You guys are are the box.
Yeah, and you can export as well, import. I mean, you manufacture. So you have pretty much there are so many hats that your company has. And at the same time, if you like a project, you can actually partake in that project. I mean...
And you got the big end of the stick because
we're so far from big pharma, I gotta say.
Yeah, and they got the big end of the stick in the sense that all the companies they're dealing with, you're offering them the chance to cut their bill and save them time, save them cash, as long as they make a deal with you, which is good because any company that's going like, no, I don't want to make a deal, you're okay. You're like, okay, fine, pay us.
We're not assholes. There's a lot of assholes in there.
Yeah, we still, we don't want to make things larger than they need to be. Mm-hmm. And we like to use the resources that we have to work on projects that we believe in. The people that we work in, we've looked at the projects, we've evaluated them seriously. We have a process of doing everything. Our stack of operational
SOPs.
procedures is like maybe we have a standard operational procedure for absolutely everything.
All the
that
way
we
up
do.
to the ceiling, pretty much.
Yeah. So we go through this process and we evaluate them. We give them points, rank them, and things like that, and then we decide like, are we going to work with these companies or not? Like in terms of doing a joint venture with them or something like that. But even just to take them in as clients, we don't want to waste our time, even if we make some money, because this is time we could use
somewhere
and create
else.
Upside and something that's going to be much more valuable down the road. So we have to make a very, very educated decision how we use our resources.
But how do you feel? Okay, how do you feel about? Because I've been looking at the psilocybin market, and I see a lot of companies that are on TSXV, the CSE, and this is really big judgment, but they like show their company. You go on their website, it's got full of funky colors, and they're like really kind of selling you this idea that you're gonna go tripping. And where you're going like, but wait a second, that's great. I can get that from the internet. Illegal, but I can get it. But why are you advertising this way? Which is something that actually I never got, because it's not there yet, the rules.
Yeah, and actually like advertising drugs that are not market approved is illegal, right? Which is one of our criteria somewhere in SOPs when
but you know what I mean.
Companies, right?
But you guys know what I mean. You've seen those websites, and they've got the funky colors. They're looking at the psychedelic.
Yeah.
Got that little.
Which is okay to a certain point, because it's still a psychedelic market. So it's in the culture. We need to not forget that, even if we're pharmaceuticals. But a lot of companies are doing too much, though. That's where the problem is in what you're mentioning.
Yeah, because it's not there yet. It's not like the cannabis market when the big cannabis rise was like, Trudeau saying, okay, we're decriminalizing. It's going to happen in the next 2 years. It's going to be in stores. That was when the big cannabis surge happened, where everybody's getting licenses. They're buying fields and they're going crazy.
Yeah.
But that's not the case, because you guys are working on controlled substances that have an actual, they're at the point where we want to bring this in as an alternative to what big pharma. And I find like some companies are just creating this dichotomy to it.
I think cannabis was a huge problem because a lot of people were basically being penalized unfairly for their use of it. They were using for therapeutic reasons or for recreational reason, but you can use alcohol, you can use other things as well. So there was this huge problem there where, okay, it's illegal to stop a lot of problems from being created, but then the problems being created are actually bigger than the ones it's not stopping, actually. Right? So I see the legalization of that had to be a solution to that problem, right? First, if you look at the psychedelics, it's more of a missed opportunity to use these substances to create new therapies.
Okay.
Right? And to really prove out that they work. So I look at it in two different ways, really. And the market is very different, right? Like you're looking, okay, you're going to sell a gram of cannabis for $10, $15 or something like that, right? Versus in the pharmaceutical market, the way it works with the payers and the providers, like the insurance companies, is very different. The cost is generally going to be adjusted to like what cost is being saved, right? So if a patient costs an insurance company $1 million, while a solution to that might be priced at $750,000 because so this is the way that big pharma works generally, which is not really okay because it keeps people out from having cures and all that. So I think that with the psychedelics, you're actually able to solve that problem, like the price of entry for treatment acceptable. But at the same time, it means, it creates a barrier of entry because there's less money in it.
That's true.
For big pharma, right? So I don't think they'll necessarily jump on this right away and replace their existing therapies with emerging ones that use psychedelics. So this whole model of you take one indication, one substance, and you drive it all the way, and when you're at phase 3, big pharma is going to swoop down and buy you for $5-6 billion. I don't really believe in it. And I think that's what a lot of companies are doing in the space right now. And there's going to be a reckoning. Actually, it's happening now because a lot of companies are actually running out of money and they haven't been successful in getting acquired. Right?
Oh,
okay.
So there has to be a model where there's an ecosystem and these companies can work together.
So you mentioned that you guys want to start listing, or at least that's the goal. You're hoping to list. I don't know if we covered, but did we cover about you guys figuring out, instead of wanting to go straight to the US instead of going to Canada?
Yeah, like our goal is to list on the NASDAQ first.
And why is that? Why is the NASDAQ the biggest place or the best place to go? If
like why do you want to list on NASDAQ? Well, because we can. And in this industry, it's you go for the top, right? So if you can only fit a small exchange and you need liquidity or to use it to raise money, then you might go to the CSE or something like that. You take an old mining shell and then you do an RTO with that, and that's a pretty typical way of working. It's been a very popular way of doing things in the cannabis industry, for example, even for American companies to be able to go public, because they're not allowed, state operators are not allowed to go on the NASDAQ.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of companies would have done that if they had been able to. Right? Now, because everything that we're doing is through licenses, government authorizations, and we're very strict in how we operate with the regulations and all that, we're actually qualified to list on the NASDAQ. So we have to take that opportunity.
It's like pretty much on paper, you guys are on paper same as any biotech, company that's out there. You're as legit. The procedures are there. Everything's the same.
Where's the difference? We have revenue.
So we're actually closer to a pharmaceutical company than a biotech. And the distinction between the two for the people that are listening to us is biotech generally will go without revenue, raise 100, 200 feet, enough money to bring a drug to a high level of clinical trials and then get acquired. They'll never make a sell or something like that. It's very, very rare. Versus a pharmaceutical company is actually a company that aims to be profitable, pay dividends, and they're the ones doing the acquisition and building a portfolio.
Which is essentially what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Because if there's no pharmaceutical company in this space is not going to exist. It's just going to be a collection of biotechs that either eventually fell or get acquired by large old school pharmaceutical companies.
That'll shelve it until...
Probably shelve them because it's not the right time to cannibalize their existing drugs, which are already on the market.
Or they're going to spin it for a younger clientele and see if it works. But by that time it happens, who knows? Will it work?
It's a crazy space. It's an interesting space. I never knew that the pharmaceutical or bio sector space was like this. It's completely new to me. I'm more of a metals guy, I trade the index, or at least try to find opportunities where I can. But it seems to me clear that you guys are in a good sector. You have a different approach to it. And at the same time, you've sort of found a way to box the market in your favor while leaving you as much upside as possible. I mean, it's a great play. And on top of that, you guys want to list on the NASDAQ, which is, I don't want to say it's bold, but I think it makes sense because I don't think Canada, or at least the Canadian market, could sort of have the volume to host a stock like yours. So it's a very good idea. I mean, you guys are building something super interesting here, right here in Quebec too, in our own backyard, which is amazing.
And that's the funny thing about it is a lot of people, we always look at companies from afar when it's time to invest. It's like, I want the big companies. Well, big companies start somewhere. And, it starts off with an idea. It starts off with a concept. It starts off sometimes with acquiring a lab and saying, oh my God, we already have these licenses with this lab. And then you follow up on it and then you've mapped out your plan. And you're actually really good also for the other ecosystem, which are the companies that are on the CSE that are into this, pretty much like companies like Red Light Holland or other companies like them. You're a necessity for them to be alive.
They need companies like us. They need this company that has the licenses and the expertise to do whatever they want with their product, right? So if they want to even think about bringing their product available for clinical trials, they need a partner like us that will process their product, that will import it into Canada, that has the license and they know what to do with their product to be able to put in capsules, for example.
Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, you guys are even solving a supply chain issue for these companies that they probably didn't even know, or at least didn't figure that they would need to know about. And you guys have already figured out solutions for that. So, I mean,
and they're making steady income on their traditional testing and control.
Quality control of pharmaceuticals, vitamins, natural
health
products.
When can I buy the stock? When can I buy the stock?
Well, watch for us hitting the NASDAQ in a year. And
bold claim. Okay, we got to clock it.
And
it is
that,
Wednesday, 21st of September, 2022. I'm expecting on Wednesday, 21st of September, 2023 to be able to buy some Shaman,
and hopefully
on the NASDAQ.
Hopefully the big Quebec funds, the Caisse de dépôt, Investissement
Québec, the big boys
will actually look at a company like yours, give it the respect that it deserves, and not be late to the party for once.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. You know what? Let's not hope. Let's make it happen.
Well, with them, they pretty much choose when they make it happen. So,
well, it sounds dumb, but that's the reason why we created our company. That's the reason why we have this podcast. Is because if we're going to get these bigger funds to look at smaller companies, or at least jump on these companies the right time, well, they have to hear about you. And for some reason, they always hear about companies like yours when it's too late. We talked about it earlier with Celsius. So hopefully when they see this content,
we're not a company like Celsius.
Well, no, definitely not. Disclaimer. No. But when they see this content, they'll know, oh, this is a company I have to look at.
Yeah, I got to think about it. I think about the future. Think about this whole new market that's opening, and not wait till these guys show up at my door and invite me for a very expensive.
Yeah, and
lunch.
maybe put a bit of public funds in a place that'll actually make profit.
What a crazy idea!
Yeah, crazy idea.
Insane.
On that, guys, thank you for coming.
Cheers.
And
thank you, everybody.
Best of luck, but I don't think you guys will need it.
No luck needed, and
we'll take it anyway.
That's it.
And that's a wrap at Bros Banter.